Welcome back, Devils fans. It is your host, Ace, here on Running with the Devils, where we are talking New Jersey Devils hockey all year long. Please hit that subscribe button, smash the like, share with a friend. Thank you very much. And on a very special episode today, I share part one of my conversation with former New Jersey Devil and St. Louis Blue, Cam Jansen. For some of the younger fans that might not be familiar with Cam, get familiar on YouTube. Check it out. A punishing hitter. Would drop the gloves with anybody, an energy guy. Cam was the absolute man, loved both of his stints with the New Jersey Devils, always gracious to the fans, just a great guy overall. Special thanks to Cam for doing this. He was really awesome, very gracious with his time, so thanks again to Cam. Our conversation was pretty long, so I'm going to put this out in 3 parts, all during the Four Nations break, so this is part 1. Look for the next 2 parts in the next couple weeks. Cam has an amazing podcast called the Cam and Strick Podcast. I'll put the link in the description as well. One of my favorite hockey podcasts. They do great interviews. Lots of cool stuff going on there, so check them out. And here it is. Without further ado, part 1 of my conversation with Cam Jansen. My guest today has played 336 regular season NHL games with another 10 in the playoffs, a fan favorite anywhere he has ever played, a punishing hitter, a quintessential energy guy. He's on my Mount Rushmore of Devils Tough Guys, co-host of the Cam and Strick Podcast, the pride of Eureka, Missouri. Welcome to Running with the Devils, Cam Jansen. Yoink.
What's up? I'll do that too.
What's going on, man?
What up, guys? What's going on?
Man, thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate it. Devils fans, obviously, will forever be in Devils lore for your 2 stints here. And I've wanted to chat with you for a while. I'm trying to extract stories from all the guys the fans would want to hear from over the years, and obviously Cam Jansen right at the top of the list. So yeah, I really appreciate you doing this. And I'm curious, do you know who the other 3 tough guys are on my Devils Tough Guy Mount Rushmore?
Well, it's weird because they've had a ton. I would say, you could say
okay, keep going. You're going way back.
Oh, well, if I look at what people, I would say, like, just talking to Devils fans throughout the years, man, they love Troy Crowder. Lou loved him. Oliwa was in the mix, won a cup. He could play. Do you consider like a David Clarkson would be one who scored 30 goals, that fought a ton. You can count Dano to.
Yes, so I'm not. Yeah, so all very tough guys in the room. I am going more with guys that were more known, primarily, I would say, for being a tough guy, as opposed to like the McKays of the world. You got one of them. One of them is Oliwa. Peluso's on there, and my 4th one is it's a little bit harder. Not a longtime Devil.
He was
not a longtime Devil.
Oh, okay.
Big man,
a big guy, eh?
Big guy.
Damn.
And he's older than us. He's a real throwback, but he had a stint with the Devils, and the last hint I'll give you, Cup champion.
Well, is not Christoph Oliwa? No, because he played a while.
03 Cup champion.
Is it God, now you put me on a damn spot. Is it the lefty who's actually a really good player? Who is it?
Big Jim McKenzie.
Oh, that's my boy, dude.
Big
That's my
Jim
boy right there.
Big Jim, what a legend, man! How good was hockey? How good was hockey back in the day?
He is such an awesome guy, and he's so gigantic. And I do a bunch of events with him all the time because Kelly Chase, he's just kind of in our group of like alumni that kind of travel around and do charity games and raise money for different events and stuff like that. He's always in the mix. And I became good buddies with him. He's such a nice guy, but God, he was so tough, man. He threw rights and lefts. His head was this big, I remember going to training camp and he was there. He was there, I think, with Ole or Langdon or whoever it was at the time, or Turner Stevenson. And I just remember watching him play. I'm like, God, he's making some good plays with the puck. He's like sauce passing over here. I'm like, I got to get better. And I remember one time in training camp, I was about to hit him at South Mountain Arena, and I picked him up and I slammed his head into the dasher where the penalty box was. And he's like, woo, boom. And I go, oh my God, what did I just do? And he kind of looked at me like, don't do that again. Don't do that again. And I just, And I respect the hell out of him, and he's so tough and cool and a nice guy.
Man, the old NHL, rest in peace.
No doubt.
So I want to set a little baseline for the viewers that might not be as familiar. Just give us your quick, I would say, Spark Notes version of one of your, not your very beginning in hockey, but in juniors, you're in Windsor. Just give them a little snippet to set the tone before you get to the league of the rock star lifestyle you were living in Windsor.
Well, I mean, I really got to say though, I came from like Eureka, first one ever to make it to the NHL and play for the Blues, from Missouri. Pat LaFontaine was born here and he left at a really early age, but I was the first one born and raised. And I came from Missouri, like Eureka, Missouri, way out in the middle of the woods. No one even knew about hockey. None of my buddies played hockey. I just got obsessed with it because my dad took me to a game and I saw Tony Twist beat the hell out of somebody. And so like that's how I got into it. So it was really I had like a 0% chance. And all of a sudden I just started playing and I played every other sport and I just became obsessed with hockey because I could play in my basement. Got rollerblades and I started playing. I became good. I learned how to skate. So anyway, boom, 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 made AAA, got all the attention, and I got drafted by the Windsor Spitfires in the Ontario Hockey League. And when that happened, I had a financial, not a financial, but like a family advisor, which basically an agent at the time, like 14, which is really young. And they told me I'm going to get drafted into the Ontario Hockey League. And me and my parents and all my buddies are like, what is that? Like, where do I got to go? They're like, Windsor, Ontario. And we're like, okay, are there Eskimos up there? Like, what is it? Like, we didn't know too much about Canada. I went there a couple times, during the AAA days, but you don't know much about Canada. It is what it is. We're in the U.S. We don't know. We don't think about it as much. So I'm like, okay, we got drafted. I went up there, put the jersey on, and then the next year, I make the team. I remember my dad dropping me off. I'm in a billet family, which is a family that gets hired by the team that takes in these young kids to play hockey, and they're like their family. And it's a very difficult position sometimes. So I went and finally I met these people in Windsor, and they're like 75 years old, and they're very strict. And I just remember my dad leaving, and I'm like, okay, I'm in Canada. I'm living with 75-year-old people or a couple that like watch evaluating every move I make, where my mom and dad are so lenient. I can do what I want. And then I'm going to high school up there, and then I have to fight these monsters that have no teeth and they're 6'6". And I got to all put this together as a 16, 17-year-old kid that doesn't know what he's doing. It was pretty tough at the beginning.
Oh boy. I'm sure the billet parents learned to love you.
They did. That was certainly the case. But then all of a sudden you become really popular in this town, I went out there and I just did my thing, and I talked to the fans, and I'd sign autographs, and I'd wait after. I just was really like close with the fans. Like a lot of other guys, I always hung out with them. I did it with the Devils too. You ask all those people. Anytime, I love that. We're all normal. Like I want you to support me. I appreciate it. I'll hang out with you. You know what I mean? So I became really popular in this little town, and I remember having all my buddies come up, and we're going to bars. Like back home in Eureka, like everybody's going to house parties when your mom and dad went out of town. Well, when you're up there in Windsor with us, we're walking around back, high-fiving the bouncer, going to VIP area at such a young age. It just was you jump like 3 steps with your with your age playing major junior hockey. It was crazy.
Nah, I've heard some of your more R-rated stories. Pretty funny. That's awesome. So then the Devils, 2002, you get drafted in the 4th round. Did you meet with Lou prior to being drafted?
Oh, hell yeah. 6:00 in the morning. I remember it was my first meeting. And I remember hearing people say, like my agent and whatnot say, they're really interested in you. They had Marcel Pronovo, who's a legend, as a scout in Windsor, and he'd be at all the Windsor games. So I'm just like doing my thing, and he's just like telling Lou, like, hey, you got to check this kid out from Missouri. And Lou's like, okay. And of course they talked and talked. And so it kind of got connected with my agent, and my agent tells me, so we had to meet with a bunch of different teams, and I met with Lou first with his group in this tiny little room, I remember. And I remember walking in, I was so intimidated. How
much did you know about Lou before then?
I mean, listen. I'm not from Canada, dude. I'm first generation hockey player. My buddies out way the hell out there didn't want. I mean, they knew the Blues, but they didn't know anything else. This was before the internet. I knew Don Cherry because I watched all. But did I really know enough about Lou? Yeah, my dad would buy me that for Christmas. But did I know about Lou and the Devils? Hell no. I never had to watch them. Why would I watch them? I could only watch Blues at the time. So I had no idea. So when you first meet the man that's going to be your first boss, basically, it was very, very intimidating. He was great. And I knew I was being funny in a good way because I don't know who it was, but some of the scouts who I knew, I just can't remember who it was exactly, but they couldn't stop laughing. And I'm like, are they like making fun of me? But no, they were just with my answers I was given. They couldn't, and Lou played it cool, but I made them laugh, and I think they liked that. Just it's little things, man. But they did ask me this. Lou goes, "Who do you replicate in the NHL? Who do you want to replicate as a player?" And I'm just like, and I go, Tie Domi. And you got to remember, this is 2002. The year before, remember in the playoffs when Domi elbowed freaking Niedermayer? Remember that? Knocked him out.
Scotty was on the bench going, or actually was in the penalty box at the time going nuts. And wrapping it back to the beginning of this conversation with you today, the very next game, the next season, Big Jim jumped him and Domi turtled and Jimmy wailed on him for a little bit and got the gate, and that was Jimmy it. We didn't get, but I remember vividly after that playoffs, obviously livid, everyone wanted Domi dead. I bought a ticket in the sky at the old barn, $20 back in the day. You couldn't sniff a hockey game for $20 now, probably in most markets, definitely not New Jersey, but on some off nights you could if you get lucky. But $20, I was in the last row in the corner, and I was like, I told my buddy I went with, I'm like, we're going to see Retribution tonight. And sure enough, I think the first shift that he was out there, Jim just grabs him, dumps him down, Domi turtled up. Jimmy got a couple whacks, and that was his night. But that was payback for needs, man. That was one of the scariest kind of cheap shots for sure. So you said Tie Domi.
Did you? But real quick before I get back into my story, do you remember the camera during that? If you look it up on YouTube, it's right there. I look all this shit up. I love it. So if you look at the camera, it pans to Lou in the box, and he's just like this, the scariest looking face. All these guys are big and tough, but Lou's face, how mad he was I look back at it, I'm like, oh my God, he was furious, and rightfully so. So anyway, I go into this room, I'm like, I'm trying to be funny, cute, whatever. And they're like, who do you replicate? And I go, Tie Domi. And Lou goes, we don't like him around here. And I'm like, oh, damn. I'm like, oh. And I don't blame him for saying that. And I'm like, okay. Then I said Mario Lemieux and Wayne Gretzky combined. And I just to try to be funny. Yeah, I know. And I don't know if he laughed, but everybody else did. So I knew I was okay. You know what I mean? But it went great. They're trying to get everything out of you. At least I was like freelance. Like, hey, I kind of showed them my personality a little bit. They love that, especially as a tough guy too. So if you could balance being like a happy, fun guy and go out there and be a killer, to be able to balance that's very difficult. A lot of guys, man, that were killers, like they want to fight like they're hardcore all the time, like hardcore. God, like they really are, or they have something going on, or a lot of guys, it's not an easy gig. So when you see the personality aspect of it, I think they're like, oh, okay, it's a positive. So, and then we had a great interview. Then I interviewed him with a bunch of other guys, and then finally, when we were, and I've told this story before, but it's funny. Finally, and me and my parents were there, my agent, blah, 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 at the draft in Toronto. This is in Toronto. Just had the meeting with Lou, had more meetings later on. A bunch of crazy stuff happened that day. It is what it is. But now it's draft day. And I think I'm going from round 2 to 4. That's what my agent tells me. I had a good year in the OHL where I put points up and I was heavyweight champ. And I led the league in penalty minutes. So I'm like, whoa, my trajectory was like, okay, he could be a scorer. He could be this. He could be that. So maybe it could be a second rounder. I don't know. It's all good. So anyway, I'm sitting there. Second round goes by. And, I'm a kid. You don't know what you know. And the Devils pick all these Russian guys and da-da-da. And then the third round comes, and I'm sitting next to one of my Windsor teammates, Aaron Niddle, and his family. And Lou goes up, or whoever it was, and said, Dave Conti maybe, to the podium, and they go, with our third pick from the Windsor Spitfires. And I jump up like, fuck yeah, baby. Let's go. High-fiving everybody. And they go, Aaron Niddle. And I'm like,
And he was right next to you?
Right now. I go, good job, Nitz. Da-da-da. He gets drafted right before me. And then, of course, when the fourth round comes, they go up there and they draft my name. Me and my dad high-five each other. Everybody else gets up and they hug like professional. We weren't. We were high-fiving like, God, let's go, baby. You know, we didn't know. We didn't know anything, man. We just were growing with the flow at the time. You know, everybody else, all these other parents have been in hockey their whole life. Their family's been hockey. They're hockey this, hockey that. We just started hockey because I loved it, and it just went boom, 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 and all of a sudden you're drafted, and you're like, holy shit, you know.
What was your first training camp at South Mountain? What year was that?
Oh God, man, dude, that was very intimidating. Pat Burns was there. Stevens was still there.
So I thought you did overlap. You did overlap all those guys. Okay, so yeah. So tell me about your first time now going to Devils training camp out South Mountain with all these legendary figures now as this young guy.
Wow, it was the most intimidating thing ever. I'll tell you, as a player, like I thought I was strong, cut up. You know, I was like walk around no shirt on. Like I was proud of how I looked. You know, I get in that goddamn locker room and I see these guys with no shirts on, naked, whatever, walking. I go, oh my God, I'm a little boy still. I got to figure some things out. I'm just beating up guys that are my age and juniors. Yeah, they're the toughest guys at our age. Fine. Yeah, now you're with grown men. And I remember just guys walking. I'm like, whoa. I go, I'm going to have to deal with it. And they're not even like the tough guys. They're just like regular players that are jacked. And I'm like, okay, this is what it is. You better figure it out. You know, you better get even stronger because I'm not tall. So that was a wake-up call, man. But I do have a funny story if you want to hear it.
Of course.
Early in my career, I remember like skating, just getting bagged. You know, maybe I wasn't playing a lot, and I'd always be the last guy out of the room during practices. You know, Mike Vasilani, who I'm going to give a shout out, love him, got me so goddamn strong. I would just be the last guy because I had to probably do more than anybody else. That's fine. So I remember like just working out, and I go to the showers, and I'm showering, and this old man walks in, and he showers next to me, and I'm like, "What's up?" He's like, "Hey," I go, "What's your name?" And he goes, "Yoshi." I go, "Yoshi." He doesn't look like Yoshi. That's like Japanese. Didn't look Japanese at all. I'm like, interesting. Yoshi, that's a cool name. Anyway, we're talking for 15 minutes about this, that, and the other, and something happened like a big weather pat. We're talking about weather and blah 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 blah. And I get done. I'm like literally 15-minute shower, long, great experience. Although he's 90 years old, and we're naked. So anyway, I walk out. And I had talking to people, blah, blah, blah. And the next day I come in and I go, God, dudes, I remember talking to Gomer or somebody, Scotty Gomer. I go, God, I showered with this old man yesterday after getting bagged. He goes, you did? I go, yeah, who was that guy? He's like 90 years old. He goes, well, what's his name? I go, he said his name was Yoshi. He goes, no, you idiot. That's Yogi. That's Yogi Berra. And he's from St. Louis, which you're from, you moron. And I'm like, oh. Okay, who's Yogi Berra? And then I looked it up. I'm like, okay, yeah. I didn't pay attention. So I showered with Yogi Berra and didn't even know. It's pretty cool.
What a highlight.
Yeah.
What was how was like Scotty Stevens towards like the young guys back then?
Great. Dude, he came up to me one time. And listen, I didn't play with him. I just remember training camp with him.
Yep.
But I evaluate everything, man. I'm sitting there like this, looking around, watching what everybody's doing, like looking like, what do I do now? He's doing that. Maybe I could do that. Oh, he got a bagel. Maybe I can get a bagel. Like I just was. And Scotty came up and this guy came behind me and grabbed me by the shoulders and started massaging my shoulders. And I'm like, whose hands are these? And I look, it's him. And he's like, hey, how you doing, man? How you doing, kid? I heard about you. And he shook my hand. I go, God. I guess Lou and him were saying, you got to watch this tough kid come in, We just drafted him. He's a tough kid. Watch him. And it just made me feel so gosh dang confident, man. I don't know. I was like, God, yeah, let's go. So just like God, people even understand like when you're a big dog and you just give a little bit of attention to somebody, just a little bit, like genuine, like that takes them to another level. It just does. You don't even realize it yourself. But when you do that to somebody, man, little things like that, it's all I need.
Yeah, at that point, Scotty was obviously already a legend. 3 cups in. Did you, or maybe your training camp, was that before the third cup?
No, it's 2002. He's about to retire. Like he's no, yeah, 2002, 2003 ish. Where they just won the cup. They're the biggest big dogs
Right.
going. So intimidating. You know,
Were you a Stevens fan from when he was on the Blues?
yeah, well, everybody was, man.
Yeah.
And
What a
it
move by
was,
Lou, by the way. That might have changed the whole
yeah,
Devils franchise. You know that whole backstory, right?
did.
With the
Oh my God.
tampering. I mean, wow.
But you know what? There's a funny thing that goes along with that. And I've talked to Stevens about this on the pod and all this stuff, and Lou actually. Um, St. Louis messed up, but if you start with that, if you start with the Stevens trade or whatever you want to consider that,
Yeah.
and then all the trades that were connected to that, all the way to 2014, that's when we got Jordan Bennington, and all of a sudden we won a Stanley Cup because of this goalie that we drafted in the third round because of one of those trades that connected with something else. It's a weird timeline. If you type that in, because if you go through it all, but it all connects. It's
Wow.
crazy.
I'm back
So
that
type
long
in
ago?
that. I swear to God, type that in, and they'll show you all the connections with all these different trades. And all of a sudden, at least Chris Pronger, Eric Brewer getting a pick, to boom, picking Jordan Bennington to win the cup in 2019. It's crazy.
Wow, I'm gonna have to check that out. So the 6 degrees of separation from Scotty to Binner to get the Blues the cup. I'll still take the Devils results. As a
No doubt
result
about,
of getting that
no doubt.
compensation. But it is
He was
interesting that it
captain.
wasn't a complete loss for the Blues. That is, I'm gonna definitely look into that. All right, so you go through your first training camp, 0405. You go to the Albany River Rats. What are your
Yeah.
kind of best memories or standout kind of things you remember from that season in 0405? I got the Rats. You got to
Well,
represent the Rats in the middle there.
yeah, no, Albany was awesome. Until you go back there later on in your career after playing 8 years in the NHL, then you're like, no, it's not. But when you don't know any better and you're playing with guys, now you're starting to make money, you know. And that was the 04 lockout year. So we had a lockout the whole year. And we had such an older team. And I never got when you're in juniors, you hang out with guys 2 years older than you, three maybe max. But now I'm hanging out with 35-year-old men that have 4 kids. Like they have money. They got a little bit of money. You know, some of them played in a long time. You got NHL guys that had this, just like you're in a different level. And it just was a wake up, like you're a man now. And now you're playing against men that are, again, 32 and, built their own house, whatever. Like they're men. And so, like, that was the biggest wake up call. But it's fun to hang out with older guys. Like, I loved it. Like, they've been through life. I picked their brain. Like, you're hanging out with another 18-year-olds. What the hell does he know? He doesn't know anything. I want to know what this cat's been through for the past 14 years because I'm going through the same thing. So that, in a sense, was great. But then you go out there and now I'm fighting the grown men. So me and Brian McGrattan that year, I think both had like 47 fights. We like broke records. Yeah, I know. I was 20 years old, and it was Robbie Fatorik was our coach. It was the scariest league probably ever assembled. Meaning there was 5 heavyweights on every single team.
Killers.
Heavyweights, killers from the NHL, killers from over here, killer. Oh my God, NHL guys, like that league was crazy in 04, that lockout.
Well, you played with Zach Parisi was on that team. He obviously did very good, that season. But did you have any idea that he would go on to have the NHL career that he did?
Yeah, he was great. He was unbelievable. He
So
was
you thought he was
unbelievable right when I saw him. You just know he was a great pick. He was a hardworking, skilled, disciplined. His daddy played. He had his blood. Right when he got on the ice, you just knew. Right when he got on the ice. No, another guy, Aaron Voros, dominated too. Him and Aaron Voros, I remember, he played with the Rangers and stuff like that, who's hilarious, by the way. Those two dominated. I just remember that. And then we had like Pascal Riom and Dean McCammon, guys like that were just cool older guys, But Zach Parisi was you could just tell the way he skated, how hard he was in the corners. Like you couldn't get the puck off him in the corner. He was strong. You're like, yeah, he's got it. He's got it. Great pick. That was like what, 17 overall? What was he?
He was a
He was mid.
let's see. Yeah, he wasn't
What
super
was he?
high.
No.
Zach
What do
was
you go, Nodak? North Dakota?
yep. He went
Yeah, he was.
Oh my god, my computer sucks.
Yoink.
Yoink. Yeah, 17. What a mid-round steal, right?
That's a guy. Who was before him? Can you see?
Oh yeah, dude. It's number 1 was Flower. Fleury went number 1. This is a very good draft, by the way. But Eric Stahl, number 2. Nathan Horton, number 3. Nikolai Zherdev, number 4. Thomas Vanek, number 5. Milan Mikhailik, 6. Ryan Suter, 7. His buddy Braden Coburn, 8. Dion Phaneuf, number 9. 10 to the Canadians, Andre Kostitsyn, Jeff Carter, Hugh Jessamine for the Rangers. That didn't pan out too well. Dustin Brown. Dustin Brown, Brent Seabrook, Robert Nielsen was 15, and the Sharks took Steve Bernier, the fourth liner from that 2012 Cup run, number 16.
He was on my line. Yep, Bernie. So, like, I would take Zach out of probably 80% of those guys that you just named off.
Probably more. You can make the argument for maybe 2. If
90.
Yeah, in a redraft, Zach's going to be, 1 or 2. I mean, maybe 3, but
yeah,
for sure. But how do you know, right? I mean, these scouts.
Offense, but yeah.
So now, all right. So your 05-06 rookie season, you play 47 games. Now you're going from Albany, what you were just describing. So now Cam's living the NHL life. How just of a whole new world, and how exciting is the NHL life for Cam Jansen at this point?
Well, you gotta understand, I'm in my own bubble. So, like, you can look at it, the Cam. Well, you're not $100 million. Yeah, I know. But we don't have money, and all of a sudden you're making damn good money, and you're getting a lot of attention. And I would hang out with I would meet people. Like, I just didn't hang out with my team, which I did. Like, there wasn't many young guys on our team. Like, I'm hanging out with older guys. They're going to bed early. We drink during the day or whatever. They're going to bed. Like, there wasn't many young guys on the team. I'm like the only young guy. So I would meet people. I'm a social butterfly, man. Everywhere I played, I would meet people, cool people that, I could talk to and become friends. So, like, man, I was doing a lot, but then I got injured, and I was lonely, man, because the team was gone. I'm eating fucking painkillers out the wazoo. You're down in the dumps. You're not getting attention. You're hurt. They're gone. You're like, am I? I went through some weird ups and downs, man. Like, don't get me wrong, but living there, hanging out, having some money. I bought a house, which is stupid because I lost so much money on it in 08 when I got traded, and all of a sudden everything collapsed.
Dude, listen, don't look up what it's worth today, Cam. You'll be sick.
Oh, I know. Well, yeah, it's just the way it is. You learn from everything, man. But I go down the shore. I would see all the Jersey Shore guys. You see the Soprano stuff. I got obsessed with it, man. I go to my buddy's Italian freaking Sunday gravy. Man, oh God, I loved it so much. I miss that. All my buddies up there. I text all the time, but like I miss, like, they would make such goddamn good food, and I just go there and hang out with their whole family and just eat, and I'd have a good time. Like, that made me feel good, right? Like, I met all these different families with these people I met that were cool as hell, and they all go to the games and stuff like that. I love doing that, So, and then I'd party, man. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, we're going to the city here and there. I'm going there. I'm doing this. Oh God, spending money out the wazoo.
Is the food what you miss the most about New Jersey?
I miss the people and the food. The people are so goddamn cool. I like going. So me and my buddies would go down to Ironbound. Going to Ironbound, hang out with all the Portuguese and Brazilian. They're all making that damn good food. All the girls are beautiful. No one even talks about the Ironbound. Like, that's the good God.
Wait, were you doing this your first stint or after the Devils went to Newark? You were doing this?
Dude, I was hanging out with a bunch of like police officers and stuff like that, and we would go. Hey, they just take me to all their cool places, dude. That good food. They'd show me every little deli, the little coffee shop. Let me show you my buddies right here. They're cool. So pull right up, little coffee shop, bam, meet people, go to a little deli. This is the best sandwich here, blah, blah, blah. Try every little, God, yeah, man. I loved it. There's so many different things going on. There's a little deli here, there's that there, there's this, you got Portuguese, you got this, you got that, you got that. And they showed me everything. So I really got to understand like the internal way of life in Jersey.
No, I mean, for all the things I knock about it, I do enjoy it. I mean, I was born and raised here, and I'll be, because of my family, I'll be stuck here till I die.
It's expensive.
Oh, dude,
it's hardcore. Now, I'm a Midwest guy, dude. Like anywhere I go, there's not much traffic. It's chilled out. Like if somebody shoots a gun back there, although I'm on a golf course, I'm like, whatever, we're good. It's like I know you're probably trying to kill something that's killing your cat or something. It's all good. It's just a different. There's 100 miles an hour. Jersey's 100 miles an hour. New York's 100 miles an hour. But you have a little bit of everything out there. But like my house here, there's no way I'd be able to buy a house. The house I have here or there, like I wouldn't be able to afford it. So there's ups and downs with everything.
No, for sure. All right, so we're still talking rookie year here. What was it like to play for Larry Robinson?
Oh, he's a man, nicest guy in the world. Like I see him get mad. You see him get mad, but he would also like pat you on the back. Like if I did like a little play on the wall, just a little play on the wall where I just kicked it back, like yeah, like he would notice that. And for a guy that just needs to kind of, not that I'm confident, like don't get me wrong, but sometimes it goes up here, it goes way down here. You got to balance your confidence. You got to act like a tough guy all the time. Sometimes you mess up, you get smacked around a little bit. But Larry would really just sit you down like this little tap, good job on the wall, like little things. They all add up. But then if he had to put you down like he was he's a fantastic human being, and he always stuck up for me, and I'll never forget that. I'll never ever forget. He always stuck up for me, and he was always good to me. I evaluate people, man. Like who's good to you, and he was fantastic. He didn't have to be. I'm a fourth line plug. I could have left, dude. It didn't. He didn't have to be, and he was.
When you said he stood up for you, what do you mean by that?
It's like in the paper, maybe he just said good things, and he would in a practice he would maybe yell at a guy and then pump my tires up, and I'd be like, Jesus, like just stuff like that. Like he appreciated what I gave, even though it wasn't as much as 99% of the guys on the team as far as like minutes and whatnot, but he would appreciate that, and I would notice it. And sometimes you'd be like a little embarrassed because I don't want to compare myself to one of the top guys because he's not working and he pumps, but I knew what he was trying to do, and it worked.
Does it mean more coming from a guy like him, because not only is obviously now the head coach going to bat for you, but because he is an NHL legend, at the top of the list, really, in terms of NHL history, does it make it that much more special as opposed to, just a different head coach?
Even if it was a different head coach that didn't play, you're a head coach. You're my boss. Your voice carries, and you're putting your ass on the line to pump me up or to stick up for me, just like anything. Yeah, of course. Like, yeah, you won 9-7. Yeah, that helps. But even if it was a regular coach that didn't play, if you do that, I notice it. You don't have to be a 9-time Stanley Cup winner. You're a coach. Your word goes farther than anybody else's. And if you mess up and you vouch for somebody that doesn't show up, then it's on you too. So they're rolling the dice as well.
I hope you guys enjoyed that. Cam shared some really awesome stories during that first segment there. Again, look for parts 2 and 3 to come out during this Four Nations break. Thanks again to Cam for doing this. You are the absolute man. And I got a lot of stuff in the works, guys. A lot of things going on, so keep your eyes peeled. But I'll be here in and out doing a bunch of stuff during Four Nations. Again, the next 2 parts of this interview will come out. And I'll be back soon. I will be back very soon. Thank you all for watching. I love you all. Like, comment, subscribe, and all that jazz. Until next time, friends, let's go Devils.